Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to Through the Fire Thursdays. My name is Juantisa, and this is my handsome husband, Roy, my baby daddy, Roy. And we are here to chat with you guys this evening about forsaking all others. Some of you may have seen the post that I put up earlier where I talked about how when we get married and we say all of the beautiful things that we're supposed to say, we're just smitten with one another. We sit in each other's faces, smiling, and everything is beautiful. The sky is blue, roses smell wonderful. Then you get to the ceremony, and the officiant or the pastor, whoever it was that officiated your ceremony, they say words like, therefore they are no more twain but one flesh. They will, of course, recite the ever so popular one from Ephesians that says, and for this reason shall a man leave his father and his mother and cleave unto his wife, and they become one flesh. Then you stand and you say your vows facing one another, and you always seal them. You got all the, for sickness and in health, good times, bad times, richer for poor, every good thing. Yeah, every good thing. And then it said, and then you say, forsaking all others till death do us part. And I think we really don't know the magnitude of those vows. We really don't understand them. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about this evening, because I've gotten a lot of questions from you guys that have been sent to my website. And I pulled a couple of the questions that came from a couple of people. I'm going to share those with you guys. And then we're just going to just have some chats real quick, just chat a little bit, tell you about our experience, or our many experiences. Many of you guys, if you have been following our lives, especially our relationship lives, then you know that we are no stranger to having problems in our marriage, facing divorce. But then God did a mighty work, and we are now restored and better than ever. We still have things that we deal with and things that we go through. That's marriage. But as far as some of the things that many of the things that we used to go through, we don't face those issues anymore. And so we can definitely lend to some of the questions that we have been getting. So I'm going to just give a couple more minutes for some people to come on. And as you come on, if you would, say hello. I want you guys to come on in, let us know you're here. And when you come in, tell a friend. You tell a friend by sharing, by tagging. You can start a watch party. You can even in the comments tag someone's name that you want to come in and take part in the chat. I always say we won't be before you long. And tonight, my husband says,
not long.
Because
I was tired.
He's tired. Well, you can't be acting like that. The people want to hear from you. You mean what? You got to go to work?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, look, hey, Born Petty, how you doing? Thank you, sweetheart. She said she loved my necklace. All right, I'm gonna share this out to a couple of my platforms, and I'm encouraging you guys to do the exact same, if you will. And while you come in, again, once you're coming in, if you would just say hello, let us know you're here.
What is SUP? Sup? We don't speak that language, sir.
I do. That's my brother, my blood brother. I got a lot of brothers in Christ.
We don't but that speak right there, sup.
From the womb to the tomb, when he say sup, I know what he means. What's up, bro? Thank you for joining us, bro. That's my brother, Charles Jenkins. Hey, Tawanda McCullen, how you doing, sweetheart? That's one of our TYBB warrior women right there. How you doing, love? I hope you guys have been having a wonderful Thursday. So I'm seeing, were you able to see? Because I'm trying to see who all is on.
No, I can't see.
It's not showing me just yet. who's on, and I'm trying to make sure. My brother Charles, I'm glad he's on. He brought to my attention last week. We did a live coping with COVID. Many of you guys, if you watched last week's broadcast, you know that our family was hit with COVID-19, and we went through that entire healing process. And so we came on and we shared with you guys not only what our experience was like to heal from that, but also gave some really good pointers for you guys to steer clear, try to make sure you protect yourself. But if you do come in contact with COVID-19, or if you're dealing with, or you know someone that's dealing with coronavirus, just some helpful things that you can use. Well, my brother made mention that during the broadcast, he had commented, and he realized later that his comments were not showing up. And so I want to make sure that if any of you guys commented last week and you did not hear a response from us, or you did not see them, I don't know what was going on. That's clearly a Facebook thing. Sometimes the algorithm with Facebook switches out, changes up, but I want you to know we were not ignoring your comments, or we definitely would have been conversing with you had we seen it. So I just want you guys to know that. And so hopefully we won't have any issues, any technical difficulties this evening. So I encourage you guys to please continue to comment. And if you have any questions or comments, we will get to them as soon as we see them. Hey, Deetra.
Hey, Deetra.
How you doing? Hey, Pam. How are you? Tawanda, you said thank you for the information. You're so welcome. I'm glad you were able to join us last week. So let's go ahead and talk about this evening's topic. I don't know why I'm not able to. You're about to sneeze? That's good. I get to say God bless you, baby. Thank you. So if any of you guys saw the post earlier today, forsaking all others, that's a fine line. I don't think that a lot of us really get a clear understanding. It's not until we violate that one that we really understand the magnitude of that one. And I think a lot of people think that forsaking all others is only limited to extramarital affairs. Only stepping outside of the marriage. And of course, that's a given. We know that violation, that's an issue. That's you bringing somebody else in the marriage. But what people, I think, fail to realize is, and let me just say this, forsaking all others, that's all over the Bible when we talk about marriage. I mean, a lot of times people don't really pay attention, but commandments are all over the Bible. But I think the only ones that we really give a whole lot of attention to is Noah's top 10 billboard hits, thou shalt not commit adultery. But there are so many other scriptures in the Bible that discuss how you are to govern yourself in marriage when it comes to forsaking all others and making sure that you cling to one another. So I want to share a couple of things with you guys from some people who actually sent some questions in to the website. For those of you guys, if you have any questions, any topics that you are wanting us to discuss, you can always email info@juantisahughes.com, and we'll get to those as best we can. So I'm going to read this to you. This one comes from a gentleman that emailed me. He said, my wife had 2 children from a previous relationship, 2 boys. They live with us. Every time I try to discipline them, she intervenes. When I let her know that's a problem for me, we end up arguing. That always results in her letting me know that they come first, they meaning the boys. He said, I love her, but I'm tired of being treated like she can do without me. I'm ready to let her find out. He said, am I looking at this wrong? Tell me before I sign them papers. Now, that was one of our males that sent in an inquiry or a question to the website. Now, I have one of the ladies. She said, this is what she said. I've had enough, and I did not sign up for this. Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. She said, my husband's mama and sisters are always too involved in what we have going on. Not only do they ask our business, but he tells them. And whatever 2 cents they give, he throws it in my face when we are not agreeing. On top of that, when they call, He goes running, even if I want or need him. She said, my heart is broken and I'm tired. Separation or divorce is my next step. And then she put help, exclamation point. So I could resonate with those. I wanted to pull those and I wanted to share those with you guys because a lot of times what we do is we suffer in silence when we're going through things in our marriage. And I want you guys to know you are not alone. We have been through some things. So, honey, can you think of any time in the marriage, any stories you could tell about when you, I guess, didn't forsake all others, and it interfered with our marriage relationship?
I think it was one time I had some company to come in town and from out of town.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of getting things, ironed out with you, I just, jumped the gun instead of coming to communicate about, what was going to be going on.
I remember that.
You remember that?
See, I'm hearing this for the first time too, y'all. So don't think we don't rehearse anything. Yeah. We are just talking to y'all. I didn't know what he was going to say. So this is interesting.
But I think instead of discussing it, I think I came in at the last minute and, kind of threw it at you because I was like, oh, them were friends from out of town. So I'm going to go with them and not, really worrying about if we had any date night or any, matter of fact, I think we went to a family dinner first at a restaurant and I sprung it. They was actually staying at the hotel right by the restaurant. And I was like, hey, drop me off here. And you dropped me off, and I ain't never heard a car spin out like that when you did drop me off. But I don't think I closed the door good. But yeah, that was one of them instances where I put somebody before you, or putting it before your feelings of really discussing what was going to go on. Because I don't think you would have had a problem with it because from people from out of town. But of course, if you pop something on somebody or your spouse at the last minute, and then go ahead and carry out the plans, then that's forsaken.
So why now, in hindsight, do you feel like that's considered forsaken? Forsaken, like putting someone before me?
Because according to the word, and that's what we follow, right. It's God, spouse, kids, family, and then all others. It's it's an order to that thing. So, and then, like I say, growth and wanting to learn how to, be better. That's the thing, wanting to learn how to be better and how to put the other person's feelings before yours, or, considering them first before you make your decisions. And like I say, most of the time, we don't even know what the outcome of the discussion would have been if we don't discuss it. We just assume. Right. And, like I say, knowing now, looking back, that the friends were from out of town, you wouldn't have had a problem with, because you love them just as much. I said friends. Those are like brothers. I'm going to go ahead and X out because my people from out of town are my brothers.
Right.
Because how we grew up and, the bond that we still carry almost 40 years later.
Right.
So I don't think you would have had a problem with it. It's just the way I came to you with it.
So now, again, now that because we're different people now, in Christ, and as our relationships have grown, we do this marriage thing a lot better. We're not perfect. We still have our issues, but our issues that we face now are on a completely different level than the little mistakes that we used to make in situations like this a long time ago. So I think, can you kind of explain, it might be a little hard because you're a different man now, but can you kind of explain why back then your mindset was it was okay for you not to disclose or converse with me about what you were doing and who you were doing it with?
Well, looking back now in hindsight, well, we see marriage on TV, or we saw the Huxtables and all the TV stuff in Hollywood. You don't realize that it's work involved. You have to kind of get out of your selfishness, because of course I've never been married before. You've never been married before. We only know what we saw, and right. We didn't see the deep, like coming up. When you did have somebody in the family that was married, you didn't see the deep, intricate details, that went into it. So right. You really don't know what you're going into until it's like OJT. If you haven't learned about it or seen a good example of
everybody doesn't know what OJT means.
On the job training.
On the job training.
and it's a hard job, you know. But everybody doesn't have an example of what the husband and the wife's relationship is supposed to be like.
Right.
You know, a lot of us didn't get. A lot of us came from broken homes or single family homes, or the person was married and they divorced, and then they got with a step spouse, you know, a stepfather, a stepmother, and you really still didn't see, you know, what the work was, and the conversation, the communication was. Right. Because if it was communication, it was done behind closed door. It wasn't like let's have a family meeting, you know, and talk about it, and you know the problems are ironed out. So when mom and daddy or whoever went upstairs to talk, you didn't know what the conversations were about, you know? So we didn't have good examples of what we're supposed to do in marriage. And coming from being younger, of course, we wasn't reading the word or into the word like we were supposed to be. We knew the word. We love God. We reverence him, but you didn't know what that word said in there about, you know, how you're supposed to treat one another. So you still living in you're married, but you're living in your selfish single mind, you know, because before we got together, everybody's used to doing what they want to do. Right. And then now I got to come in and I got to mesh what I want to do and run it by myself, because this is myself. We one. You become one. Right. And meshing that, becoming one, is what we have a problem with.
So I'm seeing comments come up.
I saw one that said, sis, answer that first male question, because that's my problem.
That's your problem. Okay, Myron. Hey, brother Myron. So that's your problem with the wife. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pretty much answer the same question or share something with you guys as it relates to how I guess you could say would forsake my husband. But before I get to that, I'm gonna ask you another question.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Because our marriage got really, really bad, y'all. For those of you guys who don't know, we were facing divorce not once but twice. And I've shared in times past that the first time that I filed for divorce, I didn't really want the divorce. It was really a cry for help. It was kind of like, you about to lose the best thing that ever happened to you, and I'm serious about this. And so I filed for divorce to let him know. And if he wasn't going to pay me any attention, then deuces. You know, but the second time I filed for divorce, we were done. Like, it was finito. Like, I was serious. Like, I was ready to walk on and truly live a new life. And you know how they say you grieve, you know, divorce is like grieving a death. I don't know if any of you guys have faced divorce or if you have been divorced, if you're a divorcee, but it truly is. It truly is like grieving a death. There was a lot that went into it, and we have children. So it was a whole lot to be considered, more than just my feelings, but it was, you know, the children and all of those dynamics. And we had been together for a while. So there had been a lot invested in the marriage in every way. So I'm going to share with you guys that, but I want to ask my husband, based on the example that he gave of one of the things that, because we had a lot of issues back then. How do you feel in hindsight that it contributed to the breakdown? Like, how was that one of the things that possibly, I guess, added to the problems and made our marriage union worse and pulled us up even further apart? How do you think that happened?
That's easy. That's communication. You know, that breaks down the communication barrier, because when you get upset and, you know, instead of coming back and saying, well, let's sit down and let's talk about this, then we go back to being in our I'm by myself mode. And, you know, I don't have to discuss it. I don't have to come to the table. I'm just going to let it ride out. It's time to ride out. You know, that's just hard. You know, that's your mind, but that's your mindset. You know, when you like that. I know you want to get up and dance.
Anyway. And so you feel like what it did? What
it broke down? It broke down the communication barrier, because now, you know, you got you and your feelings over here. I'm in my feelings over here. You know, and then it, like I said, it just breaks down the communication. You stop really sharing and talking, you know, about the things you need to talk about, or coming to the table. Because if, like somebody recently told us, it's keeping score. You know, well, he did that. Well, it's time when it's time for me to do something. I'm doing this, and I don't care because he did it to me. It's back and forth. So now you get into that. You know, I'm doing this time. I'm doing this time, and it's back and forth. And then, like I say, it breaks down a lot.
Okay, that's good. I'm going to answer because I see a lot of things. I see Myron. I'm gonna remember that, bro, hold tight, because it may be more than one person. My brother Charles said, answer the same question, sis. Okay, the same question that was asked to him. So that's two people that's asking me to answer that question or give an example about that. I'm gonna do just that. Pam says, amen, growth, understanding, and agreement. It took a minute. I will honestly say, it took a while to get there. I think what people really don't understand is there's a lot of selfishness when you first come together. And I'm not speaking for everybody in general, but I would say the vast majority of people,
unless you've had an example, unless you've had that. That's why we get at the Myron, unless you had that father there in that house with you that's doing it the way that it's supposed to be done, because he's gonna drop little nuggets on you. Hey, boy, when you get married, when your wife mad, you better shut up. They, right. Happy home, happy wife, happy life. That's the main thing you're gonna hear. But if you don't, true. Yeah, if you don't have that, if you don't have somebody dropping them nuggets on you, then you really just don't. You really just don't know. Mm-hmm. You don't see that. So right. How are you supposed to know if nobody's giving you wisdom and dropping that wisdom on you?
But there are a lot of marriages, or a lot. Let's say there are a lot of homes that, when we talk about examples that are provided, I think this is really important, because I think it's a misconception. Like, I'm hearing what you're saying, but there are a lot of times when people come from a 2-parent home, and you would think that they have an example of what it means to stay together, to be married, to have a good, solid foundation in a relationship, and forsake all others, and then get married and realize that many of the things that they learned from their parents really wasn't sound advice or a good way to govern their home.
Yeah, but I will say this. Those that I grew up around, whose dad and mom were rooted in that word, no. That's what I mean. You don't have different. That. It's different. Yeah. They were. I ain't talking about just heathen households. I ain't talking about them. I'm just talking about good godly households. That man is going to drop that on it, not drop that knowledge on that person. I know examples of marriages of friends, mm-hmm. Whose parents are still together to this day. But they follow that blueprint.
Okay, what if I got to play angel's advocate here? There are some households that's rooted and grounded in the word.
Yeah, that's true.
But let's look at the traditional word. You got some people, because my husband is a licensed ordained deacon in the church. Praise God. And he's the bishop of this home. And he's a man of God, right? But there are some people who we've heard the stories. You got preachers in the pulpit. You got deacons that help govern the church. Not only are they committing adultery, but they have an alcoholic spirit. They're running around and they're beating on their wives. And then when they go to church, everybody's like, hello, how you doing? And mind you, they can quote the Bible back and forth, up and down, and to everyone else, it looks like, and mind you, they believe that they are living a godly life, because to them, I guess is how you interpret the word. The man is the head of the household. What he says goes. If the woman gets out of line, and he should be able to do whatever he wants to do as long as he's providing for his family, etc., etc. So when we talk about being rooted in the word, really though, and some people.
But everybody ain't perfect. That's. People ain't.
I agree.
Yeah. So,
but a lot of times we grow up, and the thing, especially, I can't speak for other households because I'm chocolate. I came up in a chocolate family. We always would hear, our business or family business is not everybody's business. Yeah. So those dysfunctions that many times we grow up seeing and being a part of, we learn not to tell anybody, not to share it with anybody, and it becomes a part of us. So back to what I was saying, 2-parent home, people growing up in that kind of environment, they get married, and now the things that they think that are normal or what they grew up in, they start perpetuating in their relationship. So that lends to the question, what do you do when you don't have that example? Because you may have a 2-parent home and it still may not be a good example. So what do you do in that instance?
I don't know that. I mean, I grew up, but
You grew up what?
I ain't say I grew up. I'm
just about to say. I mean, I grew up.
I ain't gonna get that deep.
What you mean?
I ain't gonna get that deep. I ain't gonna get that deep. Myron, let's go to Myron.
Okay. Okay. So you don't want to disclose something in particular. Okay, we're gonna look at these comments. Deetra said, "Yes, my example, the Huxtables. Marriage was not like that when I got married. That's true. The Huxtables had it together, huh?
Oh yeah.
Regina says she's right because I have that same issue with my relationship. Parents are still married, but I declare, yeah, you don't necessarily want the marriage that they have. You love your parents, love them dearly, glad they were there, did what they did, but you don't want to do the same thing or have the same kind of relationship with your spouse that you grew up seeing your parents have. Brother Myron, you said, sis, I've been playing a role I never seen, and now that her child is grown, I feel like I'm lacking, and I'm trying to stop from cheating. I get that. I'm gonna address all of that. Bianca, you said that's what I learned as well. So listen, while I'm getting ready to share something with you guys, Bianca, I'm glad that you joined in. Bianca is a friend of mine who actually, when I was going through, I had filed for divorce and we were going through the process of getting ready to go to court. Bianca and I actually were kind of in the same place. She's newly married to a wonderful man, but her first marriage ended. And I know she doesn't mind me sharing this because it's no secret. She will tell you because, there's healing that had to take place and God blessed her with a new husband in a new season. But she has two beautiful, exemplary young men from her first marriage with her first husband. And those two young men are being raised in the household with her and her new husband. I want to know in the comment section, Bianca, whether or not you guys have faced any of those issues or should I say, how do you handle making sure that your husband has comfortability in having an active role with governing your household and disciplining your sons if need be, and whether or not there's any involvement or any issues or concerns with their father with you doing that. Because I find that a lot of times and this is based on people that I have counseled, emails that I receive, sometimes the woman has an issue and stands as a barrier and stops her new man or her new husband from having any functions as far as disciplining a child, because the ex is like, don't let Negro say nothing to my children. Then I say nothing to my children. So for her, what she's trying to do, don't put your hands on me. He ain't spanking nobody. He better not say nothing out the way. I'm coming over. I'm blah, 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 blah. And so a lot of times she's defensive, but she's also defensive because she's trying to protect.
But that's also that other person really not letting go, because any man, if his child is acting up and you know that the person that they married is decent, you tell them, like back in the old days, just like back in the old days, you mess up across the street, then Mr. Johnson had permission to tear your behind up, and then he was going to tell your parents when they got home, and then you got another whooping. That was a long time. Yeah, that was a long time, but that's when
that was our generation. Yeah. Now we were born in the 70s, we grew up in the 80s. But 80s babies.
But that's when those, they're supposed to be adult enough to come. That's the old man. That's the ex-man. This the new man. They should come together and have conversation about, hey man, I know them your kids. I respect you. I respect them. But they under my roof now. So I have some things that's gonna be happening, and they need to come to an agreement. That'll keep that woman from having to come in and protect. Okay. You see what I'm saying?
So another angel's advocate situation, because that's too mature. Be an angel advocate, I have to be an angel's advocate because people are dealing with these situations, and it can't just be on the surface conversation because there are underlying issues. So with that, you have those are two mature men coming and having a conversation. But you mentioned sometimes the ex hadn't really let go. Let go, yeah. Okay, what if he has let go, but he really isn't feeling the way that the person that she has chosen to be with? Well, not for her. He doesn't agree with the man that she has chosen to be with because he doesn't think that that's a good example or role model for his son.
I mean, that's different. I mean, we could throw out a million scenarios about if this wasn't that, if that wasn't that. We could throw all that out. And like I said, if that's not a good example, then now you got a whole totally different situation. You know, so I don't know how that would be, but they still, even if he don't, they still need to have some kind of, dialect.
Okay.
We got to talk.
I did a live last year in 2019 called Blending Families. I'm gonna get to that. I see Bianca. Thank you, sis, for answering that. I'm gonna read that. I did a live called Blending Families because when we got married, of course, my two sons are the only children that I have as far as our union is concerned. But we have a daughter who was 4 years old when I met my husband. She's 19 now. 20 now. She turned 20 in December.
21. So.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I feel old. Anyway, and that was, with the blending of families when you have children from previous relationships, how that goes. And I encourage you guys, maybe I'll repost that one because I gave some real transparent scenarios as it relates to what we experienced and also some ways to help you guys cope if you are blending families and what you have to do. So I won't go into all of that right now, but that's a really good thing because blending families is not the easiest thing. Charette, hey sis, how are you?
Get back to the first
I'm gonna answer it.
Question. We gotta get back to that.
Charette says, right, sister, that's why it's so important to see understanding for yourself. Bianca says, the boys are young men, rather. They're young men now. Because I think Barack is about what? Is he 14 or 15? I think if I'm not mistaken. The utmost respect for my husband. He's an excellent example as a husband, father figure, and a provider. They have no problems whatsoever. If he tells them to come and put the trash out, they do come and put the trash out. You said what now?
My own children be slacking on that.
My own children slack on that. You got to tell about 3 or 4 times. Boy, if you don't get up and go take that trash out. But they do it because there is a mutual respect. They know they can call on him for anything and he'll come through. So it works both ways. And I'm blessed. Did you, and that's a wonderful thing. To God be the glory. Did you facilitate conversation between your ex-husband and your new husband, or did they have the conversation themselves? Charette, you says, I think there has to be respect and trust between two men. That's what you were saying. Mm-hmm. Hey, Valencia, how you doing, sis? Bianca goes on to say, he's shown time and time again. You read that, baby, if you can.
Yeah, I can't see. You know,
you don't have your glasses on.
No, I have my glasses on.
You gotta help me out here. I don't want to miss what anybody's saying because after my brother told me.
He's shown them time and time again that
don't be so fast. They can't hear you.
I'm looking at the
Did
time.
Y'all hear what he said?
He's shown time and time again that he has their best interests at heart, so that makes them more respectful to him. I was concerned of how they would adjust, but God worked it out.
Okay. And Bianca also says Barack is 16 and 17, and he'll be 17 in September, and Austin is 19. Okay. All right. So the first question that my brother Myron and my brother Charles wanted me to elaborate on as it relates to some of you guys, I know you're just coming on, but we had a gentleman that sent a message to the website, and he said, my wife had 2 children from a previous relationship, 2 boys. They live with us. Every time I try to discipline them, she intervenes. When I let her know that's a problem for me, we end up arguing. That always results in her letting me know that they come first. And I love her, but I'm tired of being treated like she can do without me, and I'm ready to let her find out. Am I looking at this wrong? Tell me before I sign them papers.
Order is messed up.
The order is messed up.
God, spouse, kids, and I believe that that when people get married in this situation, that mother, like you said, that protective thing, she's taking ownership of the kids.
Okay.
And then, but it's supposed to be when y'all get married, you and him are one now. And even though they came from you out of a past situation, he still comes first.
Now, wouldn't you admit though that is really, really difficult for a woman who, and this is a woman who carried 2 sons.
Yeah.
Now I'm with you, and you are the father of my children. So they are equally yours.
But if you're marrying that man.
But if I marry another man who comes along years later after I have birthed and been raising 2 sons, how do I then say, but I'm going to put my kids on the back burner and put him on the front?
This is where this is where the marriage counseling in the beginning is so serious, because the first thing they talk about is trust. So if I'm going to keep him away or not let him discipline my kids, then I really don't trust him. And if I don't trust him, then why did I marry him? Because when you trust and you give your life, then you trust that person with your life. Those kids are an extension of your life. So you really don't, there's no trust there, because you don't trust that man to take care of those kids as if they're his own.
That's some good talk right there.
I mean, that's just real talk.
I can't even do Angel's Advocate with that. You know, I be looking for a reason to be like Angel's Advocate. So let me just tell you guys, for me, my husband gave the example of when his friends came to town and they were staying at a hotel, and he decided he wanted to go out and kick it with his friends, but he didn't discuss anything with me. And the reason I think that that was really an issue for the two of us was, first, we had a new baby. Our eldest son was a baby at the time. And I didn't know they were coming to town. And then he decides he wants to just get up and go. And of course, they're coming to the A. It's time to go to the club. Might have been a strip club. I don't even know where they went, but he was gone and he was out to the wee hours of the morning. And he didn't tell me anything. And I didn't like it. But maybe had it been discussed, maybe if I had known ahead of time, we could have discussed some things. But it was just like, hey, drop me off over here at the hotel. I'm going with the boys. I don't know if the boys are up in the hotel and they got the strippers waiting. I don't know what's going on. It was just sprung on me. And so that was an issue. But that was his example of where he didn't forsake others, whereas he didn't put my concerns ahead of kicking it with the boys. My example is this. Mine's a little different. I admit, when I gave birth to my son, my world became my children. I loved him, but something different happened on the inside, to where it was just like, I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this child that came from me. First of all, bonding and having a child inside you that breathes, because I know you loved your son, and
it came from me
and
too.
he came from you. He shot from you.
Yeah. Why you say so?
Because it's the truth. He shot from you, but he was nurtured by me. And
he tried to latch on to me one time.
Try listen.
He tried to latch on.
When you had your shirt off. He probably was like, wait a minute, that's some taco meat. Something ain't right. But I mean, for a little over 9 months, I had this growing being inside of me that was a living because of me. And I could feel every movement. Mothers, you guys can understand it. Men, you may or may not be able to empathize with it. I don't know. I'm not going to discount you, but there is something different that happens. When my son was birthed, it was like, I never knew a love like that. I never knew. I knew he was going to do that. I never knew what it really meant to have that thought that I would lay down my life for someone else's. Like, if my child was in harm's way, if a bullet was coming at him, without question, I'm jumping in front of the bullet. That was the mindset that I had as a child. Like, I mean, when he was a baby, when he was a child, it was like, whatever I have to do to protect my child, that's what I'm going to do. And it wasn't anything that had to be practiced, had to be thought out. It was just innately something that happened to me when I became a mother. And I can recall us having problems in our marriage. And as we were having problems in our marriage, maybe you're right. There became a lack of trust. And so for me, I felt like no matter what happens, I got to take care of my son. Where I go, he goes. What if we don't work out? He not going with you. He coming with me. That was a given. That was understood. And I'm going to war if you tell me you're trying to take my kids from me. Like, it was just so, maybe without me really knowing it, once, and my sons, both of my sons, I nursed them. So even when it was time for the time frame after my child was born, it was like my body belonged to my son, yet it was supposed to be my husband's. But it was like everything. Sometimes I, just don't touch me here. Don't move up here in this area because it's his, And I think that subconsciously there may have been signs or something that I sent over to my husband to say that you are not my number one priority anymore, that my sons belong to me. So for me, that was where I think, when I look back in hindsight, where I may have very well sent signals to my husband that they were first. Now, I don't know. Did you ever feel that way?
Yes.
This is so, guys.
I was distraught.
I'm being serious. This is so raw, y'all, because this is what he said was the first time that I've known that was his example, and this is the first time that.
I felt that, but I didn't. I knew what the main purpose was. Then, like I say, you a new mother, and I watched. I ain't gonna lie, I've watched some Lifetime movies. Fellas, you can learn a lot from Lifetime. You even know if she gonna stab you when you sleep. So watch Lifetime.
Now that was Snap. You remember he used to come home from work and I'll be watching the Snap.
We can't watch Snap. Well, calling folks, hey, she watches Snap, so anything happened. Investigate.
But seriously, did I make you feel that way?
I mean, I felt that way. Man, been working hard all week. You want a little, a little time.
What's time?
A little get down.
Explain. People don't know what to get down is.
How we made the baby, girl. You know what it is. But you be drained. I understood after a while, you be drained from the breastfeeding. That'll drain you. The baby always needing. So
yeah.
That's when conversation communication needs to come in. Instead of the person feeling this way, then they should be able to come and say, hey, I know, we had a baby and I know he's important right now, but I got some needs too.
So why didn't you ever tell me that?
Because it really didn't, I guess it really didn't affect me like that, because I knew what you were doing. I knew, we already, man, come on, we had planned out the room. I already knew when we started getting wallpaper, baby wallpaper. The house had been painted. Now we started getting baby wallpaper. I said, oh, I'm going to take a little back seat for a minute because
she nurturing already.
Yeah, already. So you kind of figure I'm going to have to take a little back seat for a minute. So you had to get out of your selfish ways. And it ain't like, the baby, he might have went to sleep, but 15, he cried all the time. So
breastfed babies have to eat more often.
Yeah, they eat more often. And if I knew his little schedule, he was going to get down for a 10-minute nap. I knew I had 4-5 minutes to play with.
Fix it, Father. So Victoria said, amen to the teach man. She was like, so to address the situation about the kids coming first, really, I think Roy did that. I would have said the exact same thing, because when I counsel Myron, Charles, when I counsel people, this is what I tell them as it relates to the order of marriage and children, the spouses and children. Now, Roy already said, it's God, your spouse, your kids, your family, and all other things. That mean your job, your friends, all of that stuff comes after that. But that is the proper order. Your spouse takes second seat to no one but God, right? If you're in a situation where you find that the mother or your wife tends to put the children before you, guys, first of all, she's wrong. I wouldn't even try to sugarcoat it. I was wrong. And
Ooh, hold on. Say that again. Let me get that. No, I'm just saying. Go ahead. That's the first. Well, what's the date? I need the time. The date 7/53/8/6/2020. All right, go ahead.
Is you finished or is you done?
All right, come on, because we can finish.
Okay, so I was wrong, but this is the way you have to look at marriage. And if you look at marriage this way, wife, husband, when it comes to other people being involved, not forsaking others means that you have in some way, shape, form, or fashion allowed someone else's thoughts, opinions, contribution, whether it's intrusive or whether it's welcome, you have allowed it to have an effect in your marriage. But what you must remember, marriage is like this. It's you and your spouse. Y'all have children. You raise your children, right? It's a clock. You and your spouse have children. You raise your children. Your children meet someone else. They get married and they move out. And you're starting all over again with who? Just you and your spouse.
They moving out for they now. You talking about they get me somebody moving out. They moving out for they meet somebody.
Let's just say we had daughters. The proper order is she should meet a suitor or a man who should come and talk to you about taking her hand. Okay, well, don't be treating my sons any different that you just gonna kick them out now.
18, you out of here. We had a discussion every Friday. I talked to them. 18, college or the military. One of them, you in. And if you go to college in state, and you're going to stay on campus.
What if it's cheaper for them to stay home if they go into college?
I know it's cheaper to keep them staying, but nope. We just got to no.
Back to the way to look at it.
No.
It's you and your spouse. You and your spouse have children. Your children, you raise your children. Your children are raised so that they would meet someone, and God, prayerfully, they are God-fearing people. They have Christian marriage. They go on to get married and they leave your home, and it's you and your spouse. That's why it's so important to make sure that you do everything you can, even during the marriage, even during the rearing of the children. You're doing whatever you can to make sure that you're still nurturing your marriage and not putting your kids before your spouse, because your children are going to do what?
Do the same.
Leave you.
You leave and then repeat the same thing.
They're going to leave you, and if they do it right, they're going to have children who are going to repeat the same thing. You and your spouse are supposed to cleave to one another. Leave your father and your mother. That means everyone else, and cleave to one another, becoming one flesh, because when you have children, raise your children are raised to be productive citizens, marry somebody else, and leave you. They are supposed to leave you. They are not married to you. They should never be one with you anymore. The only time that they're going to be one with you is when you carry them. Once they come out, they're no more twain to you. You and your spouse are supposed to be together. So I was wrong. And that's my answer to that, guys. I experienced that, and my children were not from a previous relationship. I want to I gotta read. Look, I have to read this. You gotta help me read it.
Oh no.
Some of this stuff is not refreshing fast enough. I just saw something else come up. Y'all be patient with me because this is some good conversation. I don't know if it's gonna come up. First of all, Victoria, when you talked about the marrying and then the trust with marrying someone that you trust to also raise your children, Victoria said, we as women have got to stop marrying these men that we can't trust. We can't trust their parenting skills. A man got to be a man, and he can raise them boys differently than a woman can. We got to talk about these things in premarital. That is so true. I had a situation. Those of you who know that I was a criminal investigator for 15 plus years, I had a situation where a young lady had a child from a previous relationship. She hooked up with a young man who didn't have a job. He really wasn't doing anything with his life, but she was so in love. She left to go to work and left her baby in his care. Mm-hmm. When she came home from work one day, it looked like her baby was in the bed asleep, but she was walking through the house looking for her man was nowhere to be found. When she went in the room a few minutes later to, look at her child, she noticed that all around her child's face, it was bloody and bludgeoned. And when she reached over, the baby was cold to the touch. He had beaten the baby to death and was gone. But guess what? She was already pregnant from him. So he had killed one child and she was pregnant. Can you imagine? And then he left. So she had to kind of coerce him back. So she's grieving the death of her baby, coercing, nurturing wounds of a man that she thought she loved, had to nurture him back to set him up for the police to actually catch him. And then she's going to carry his baby to term, have a baby that looks just like the other baby. I mean, it was a lot, but she met and married someone who was not trustworthy. He wasn't really a good example, wasn't doing anything with his life. He's at home while she's going to church, and he's coming and he has moved into her place. So that's a prime example. That's a prime example of what we're talking about. Deisha said we are beautifully funny and you love it. Bianca said, to answer your question, did I have the talk? This is about your ex-husband and your new husband. She said they developed their own relationship. However, in the beginning, I made it clear to my husband when dating that the man God sends as the priest over our home will love and treat my sons as his own. She said, honey, they're on his insurance policy and everything, okay? She said, I also told my kids when they were younger and throughout the years, the very same thing. Therefore, they must be respectful and obedient as a result. When that time came and I finally remarried, both my husband and my sons really took that to heart, and it was harmonious. They know he's such a good man that we had a disagreement once, which is rare. And my oldest son said, Mom, you know he loves you. I think that is why my sons respond to him the way that they do, because of how they see him treat me. Boys are protective of their moms. That is so true. They see him reading the word and living it. My brother asked the question when I was giving the example of how I put my children up, or when I had my son. My brother said, what did you do to forsake him? That's what I did. I put my sons before their father. I was giving them more attention. I was argumentative with my husband. There were times when he may have said something as it relates to his thoughts about the children, and I was combative because even though they came from him, I would often say, my children, my sons. I still have to catch myself from saying that, don't I? Even today.
Yes.
You ain't gonna do it like that. But that is what I did. I'm really good about it now. Let me tell you, my sons, if he calls their name, cannot come out of their mouth. What do I say?
Sir. Oh.
Don't
talk to my husband like that.
Say it again.
Don't talk to my husband like that.
Don't talk to my husband like that. If he calls our eldest son Roy, and Roy said, I said, don't talk to my husband like that. And he said, yes, sir. And equally, if he sees, like, because sometimes with the chores and things of that nature that they have, if I say, did you wash these dishes? Did you really clean these dishes? My oldest son is a teenager now, so he get that. If he sees them huffing, I can hear them down the hall. What do you say to our eldest son?
Don't talk to my wife.
Don't talk to my wife. Don't act like that with mama. And that's how not only do we make changes for ourselves to make sure that we're showing one another that nothing and no one comes before each other, but we're also setting the precedence for them to understand that we are one. Bianca, you said I did the same thing in my previous marriage. I put my kids first. That's why I knew when I remarried, the order must be in place: God, spouse, and children. So let me ask, honey, what about maybe 3? Did anybody else have any more questions while I ask you this? What about just like 3 quick takeaways. If you could think of anything that you could just kind of advise, like the young lady that sent in the question where she was talking about, because we had that issue too, where there were things that we were bumping heads with as it relates to with the mom. I used to call him, he's a mama's boy. And we had that whole dynamic too. So I can relate to what she was saying. And then what do you say about any man that is dealing with having coming in and raising someone else's sons? Like, what are three main things
from that where it was the mother and the sister? Sound like there was no strong male figure in the house, maybe, and he got turned into the daddy and the brother, you know, at the same time. He protected, probably was the one that had to protect his sisters growing up.
But so, what about the mother?
And then probably was doing stuff, you know, had to do stuff for the mom in the house as the dad, you know, as what a husband would be doing or should be doing. So what men have to realize is when that situation comes and you meet your wife, don't let the guilt trip they will throw on you come into fact. Some people can't deal with the guilt trip.
Use yourself as an example. One of the things we do, we're very transparent because we don't want you to think that we're just having conversation and talking out of the sky and trying to advise you or something. We actually face this.
I think one time early off, my mom had locked herself out the house and I had an extra key. And she wanted me. Yeah, I remember she wanted me to drop everything. You know, we were doing something at a place where we couldn't leave.
We couldn't stop.
Couldn't stop. And she was. I was like, you're gonna have to find something to do until I get, you know, over to you.
And it wasn't that he was saying,
I'm
not coming. But it was just we're way somewhere else. And at the time, I think your car was in the shop. And we were one car, and we were engaged. We were not married. I don't think we weren't married. And I think it was already that whole she coming in taking my son type deal. And so he told her, I can't get to you right now. It's gonna be, you know, a little while, whatever. But what ended up happening?
Well, we had it out, you know. I wouldn't let the guilt trip run, you know, on me then. You just met, and you know you gonna do your mama like that. And you know she just was used to me because before, you know, if something happened, of course you're gonna go, you know, take care of your mother. But sometimes they can't deal with, you know, somebody coming before them, and that's probably what happened in the situation there. They probably throw the guilt trip on him. Well, we always been there for you, and we, you know, we your blood. They, you know, they'll use that, we your blood, but not realizing that according to what the word says, then yeah, you there, but you way down beneath now, you know, especially if we have kids. Of course, it's God, like say, spouse, and if there's no kids, then family. So whatever we taking care over here, then after I take care of her and make sure her needs met, then I can get to y'all. And she probably gonna come with me to help take care of the needs if things are done right. You know, so yeah, he's wrong there because the order again is messed up, you know. So
three quick things.
First thing, always communication. Communication is key. You got to talk. You know, if those situations go on and you feel like, you know, you've been forsaken, then you need to stop it right there so it don't turn into a tick or tack thing. Second, put your spouse first. So instead of you acting, you know, doing what you want to do, then consider their feelings first. And 3, hey, what's a good one? What's a good one? I guess when I threw the trust out there, so you don't come into the situation of, you know, that protective mode. You know, the trust has got to be there.
But if the trust is not there, how do you fix it? Because we're talking about if you're already dealing with it, how do you become an overcomer and get on the right track?
You got to, best thing, and we have to stop veering away from it, is counseling. You have to, you have to get counseling. Nobody can, that's why it's there. That's why the word even say, seek good, godly counsel. If you're, you know, if you're one there, then you need that counselor. We're not perfect. Everybody we're gonna make mistakes. We're always gonna make mistakes. Everything is not gonna be hunky-dory, roses, bed of roses. It's just not gonna be there because we're man. I mean, one man, we're man, but we are human. We're human. So we gonna get in our feelings, we gonna get out of the spirit sometime, some break off. You gonna throw a couple cuss words out there, you gonna cuss, but like I say, you got to get that counseling and get that balance. It has to be balanced there. And if one comes, I guess you should, if there is an issue, you should always be open to counseling. You should always be open to counseling. If that person is trying and they say, hey, we need to do this, then hey, let's go, let's pray about it. Because that's one thing that can, stop argument. Hold up. Let's pray. We need to pray. So once you put God back in it, you know what I'm saying?
It's hard to keep arguing, cussing and
fussing when you say, let's pray. And we won't rebuke the enemy. He got to flee.
Yeah.
He got to flee.
And you got to work at that. I know.
Yeah, it's not
jump up and you're able to do, especially if you don't have a relationship with God.
Yeah, you got to have a relationship with God.
You got to work.
That's your first. That's why that order. Remember, that order is God. Right. So if that order is God, then we got to look at it and say, hold on, these God, these ain't my vow, these God vows.
God, and we have to. I'm so glad you mentioned that. The Word of God says that a 3-strand cord is not easily broken. That 3-strand cord, meaning in marriage, that 3-strand cord is husband, wife, God. You tied to God. If you operate that way, understanding that these are the 3 most important entities in the marriage, it cannot be an easily broken relationship. But if you have a relationship void of God, what are you hanging on? You end up like that. I'm gonna read this, and we gotta go. But because my husband has to go to work.
I ain't gonna lie, y'all. You know how to talk shit.
You see, now you prolong it.
All right, prolong.
So Charles says, always be considerate. He put considerate in caps. Myron says, sis, I support my wife in the ministry all the way, but when all you do is help others and not take care of home, the enemy will come. So pray for me. I'm telling y'all, we could talk about this all day. And I will say this. We have had this same thing before in our marriage, and probably more recent than you would think. One of the things that I guess we would hurl at one another would be, now see, you just finished preaching, or you just finished doing this or doing that. Or I just heard you on the phone talking to such and such. Come on, but we not saying eye to eye. And you know what that does, Brother Myron? I can say what it does for me as a woman in ministry. If my husband, or when my husband has said those types of things, it makes me feel like this with him, because I start feeling like now you're actually criticizing my walk with Christ, and that causes more of a problem for me. So my suggestion to you, he may have something different to say, but my suggestion to you is, number one, never bring that up, because here's the thing. You and your wife are perfectly imperfect. And just because you struggle with situations and circumstances in your own marriage, it does not mean that you cannot use your gift that God has called you to use in ministry to speak to someone else to help them become better. Many times we cannot necessarily see what we are dealing with because we're in it, but we can see what somebody else is going through and take that word and break it down and give it to them for them to be able to use it. And that's why godly wise counsel is so important. And it's so important for you guys to have godly wise counsel that you can cling to or glean from or call up and say, listen, we are dealing with this situation or that situation, and they will hold you accountable, just like your wife is maybe holding someone else accountable. If your wife is counseling somebody else, but she's sitting at the top of the hill and it's like y'all up there, like y'all can't get advice or counsel from somebody else, y'all can only give it, that's where you're having a problem. So you need to pray. It's not that yeah, we'll pray for you, but you need to be praying that God would bless you guys with someone that you can pray with, that you can be honest and transparent with, that's not going to be spreading your business, that's going to give you godly wise counsel. A husband, even if it's not a husband and wife team, just godly wise counsel. But if it's a husband and wife team where they can come together and counsel you, because my husband and I have that. We still to this day have our ministry leaders that we can call. And I'm not even talking about the ministry leaders at our church. I'm talking about we have a relationship with a man, a woman of God that has been married for many years, and we can contact them and say, hey, we're dealing with something here. We need you to counsel us. And we sit down and we submit to their authority in the word for them to teach us, because we run into those same issues. So that's what you need to really understand, Brother Myron, as it relates to that. It is so important for y'all to have that. I know, baby. We get ready to get off, but I can.
We ain't sitting on pad, no. You got pad back there.
You got pad.
So this thing, I don't know.
Don't start none. It won't be none.
Different, like the talk show hosts, they get breaks and stuff. We ain't had no break. I'm sitting on this hard chair. We gotta go back to the cushion.
Bianca said, "What if your spouse refuses counseling?" That's a good question. Charette says, "Good question." Or they always have an excuse when they can't go. We dealt with that too. You can't make them go, and what you guys need to understand
but the thing is, usually when the person doesn't want to go to counseling, they haven't submitted.
That's what I was getting ready to say.
They have not submitted to God.
Because, but we good. Yeah. I was getting ready to say telepathy, but I was getting ready to give them a scripture.
Yeah, they have not submitted.
1 Peter 3. I want you to go to 1 Peter, the 3rd chapter, and I want you to read what it says as it relates to husband or wife. It says, you mustn't leave your wives, you mustn't leave your husband, even if he has not accepted the good news. Meaning, even if he has not given his life to Christ, but he still wants to remain and dwell with you. The reason being is because, and it says, don't leave and close your mouth. It says that you can win your spouse over to Christ. You can win them over to doing what needs to be done in your marriage, salvage your marriage, and what's best for your marriage by not saying a word, but that your godly countenance would win them over. In other words, the way you conduct yourself, the way you act. If you're in Christ and you governing yourself every single day, you can't see them coming over and saying, I'm going to follow your lead and we're going to go to counseling if every time they do something that you don't like, you cussing them out, because that's not God. So they don't want to follow that. But if you continue to stay consistent, you love on them, sometimes you got to love the hell out of people, including your spouse. And it's not wives just for husbands, but it's also husbands for wives. You win them over not by running your mouth, but by governing yourself in a way that will cause them to want to draw nearer to you. And when they draw nearer to you, you can better guide them in saying, this is what we need in order for our marriage to be salvaged and to be saved. Right. So that's the answer to that. You got to be patient. You cannot brow bash, because the only thing that you're going to do is push them further away. So that's how you handle that. True, we're all human to have. Dietrich said, thanks so much. I truly enjoyed. I'm glad you were able to join us. Bianca, you said, true, we're all human and have personal struggles. Absolutely. Yeah, because that goes back to what I was saying with Myron. We're of Christ, but we ain't Christ. We have to work at this thing. Flesh. So with flesh. That's right. Bianca, you say we have to be transparent and vulnerable with our spouses and love them in their imperfections. That's right. That's what Christ did for us. And
you happy I ain't had no imperfections?
Lord Jesus, y'all. I ain't gonna even respond to that. Born Petty says communication prioritize the order of marriage. That's right. She's recapping: God, spouse, children, family, and everybody else. Stay in prayer and be open to counsel. You've been listening, girl. Bianca, you said communication and prayer together to overcome and get on one accord. That's right. I think okay, so I think we can bring everything to a close. I just got one more thing to tell to respond to Myra and Charles. When it comes to the children and it being out of order, I want to also make sure that you understand that you have to take self-evaluation. You have to look at yourself. Look what you have contributed to the rearing of the children. Children learn through example. You cannot be the type of parent that says, do as I say, not as I do. Children are going to do what you do. They are going to act out what they see. Actions really do speak louder than words. So if in fact they begin to operate in a way that's indicative of them seeming to be protective of their mother or being belligerent to you and not listening to what you say, you have to be mindful of the fact that they may very well be watching you and the way that you deal with their mother. You understand what I'm saying? If they are resistant to you, and maybe your spouse is out of order, maybe your wife is not stepping in to check the children and say, like I tell my children, don't talk to my husband like that. Yes, sir. No, sir. Get up and go see what he wants. Don't answer him from the back. Go see what he's calling you for. I jump in and I do that because I have a respect for my husband because of the way that my husband treats me. He has learned, according to the word, he treats me as the weaker vessel, not weaker as I'm a weak woman, but he loves me in a way that he treats me kindly and gently to where I'm not to be mistreated and mishandled. So because he treats me that way, he is showing that example to our sons. And if my sons seem to be out of order, I don't have a problem stepping in and now saying to them, hold up. Don't respond to my husband like that. I don't even say to your father like that. I say to my husband because I'm protective of my husband and vice versa. So I always encourage you to check yourself. Look at the example that you have shown. Look at the things that you have done, that you may have said, or the things that those children have seen as it relates to the relationship that you two have with one another. That's what you got to be careful not to argue in front of them and fighting and all that stuff. All right. So if you guys have any more questions, you put them in and we'll comment and we'll look at them later. This has been a very fruitful conversation, but we're going to get ready to get out of here because this can go on all night. If you have any more questions, concerns, anything that you want us to address, look at him giving you the peace sign, that you want us to address, you can always go to or email me at info at juantisahughes.com, and we'd love to see some of your questions and concerns. I hope you guys have been blessed by tonight's broadcast, and we look forward to talking with you again on Through the Fire Thursdays. And until that time, enjoy the rest of your evening. Joy that the world didn't give, the world can't take away. Stand on the word, y'all. Bye.
Peace.